I feel like nobody talks about this part of business, and I'm not really sure why, but I'm going to dive into it because there's this pattern interrupt in this empathetic mirror that if we are here together, you're watching this because the odds are that you've built something pretty successful and you've crossed the 250K mark, you've got clients, you've got cash flow, you've got momentum, but from the outside, it looks like it's working. But on the inside, you're holding it together with a combination of caffeine, tenacity, a great pair of heels, and duct tape. And no one really talks about this phase of business because it's not beginner anymore and it's not effortless either, though. And this is the part where you look around and think, if I grow this any bigger, I might break, actually. But here's the wild thing. Most women don't stall out here because they're underperforming. They stall out here because they're overperforming, but in the wrong direction. Let me show you what I mean. So the 250K ceiling isn't capability, it's capacity. Let's name it. What you're in is what I call the gamma gap. And it's this awkward in between hustle, like you built your first six figures, but the hustle, won't get you to the next level. And at this point, you've got enough skills to dominate the demand. You've got enough clients to feel busy. You've got enough pressure to feel like backing off will actually break it all. But you don't have the structure that protects your energy. You don't have the systems that stabilize your business. And you don't have the identity that knows how to lead without over giving. And this is where the capability becomes a trap, because the better that you are, the more that your business actually depends on you. The more your nervous system stays in like this high alert just to maintain it. I had a client recently and she's a coach making about 37K a month consistently, and her body was fried. She hadn't been to the doctors in who knows how long. Her team was texting her at midnight. She was taking discovery calls in the car between school pickups and listening to client Voxers. Her calendar looked like a freaking corporate fire drill. And honestly, she didn't need more success. She needed a new system to contain the success that she already had. Which brings us into the 3 gamma levels that let you scale without the cost. Which brings us to the 3 gamma levers that help you scale without the cost. So these aren't strategies, these are capacity upgrades. And the first one is actually the energetic infrastructure. So let's be honest, if your business still needs the chaos to grow, it's actually not scalable. We start by mapping out where your attention is actually leaking and beginning to reclaim your calendar. What we look at are what decisions are actually draining you. And what problems are you solving over and over and over again? You know the ones I'm talking about too. I know you do. So what bottlenecks are exist because you haven't designed your week like a CEO. And so one of my clients, this meant deleting 7 hours of recurring obligations and rebuilding her delivery model. We went from holding it together to actually thinking strategically. And more importantly, she started sleeping again, which is something that I love because then that opens up some time for her doctor's appointments too. Next, the offer architecture. Most women who are stuck at 250K have this pattern. They create these offers that require them to prove their worth in real time. And so they're either over customized, they're over delivered, or they're burnout trying to be irreplaceable. And when we flip that, we're restructuring the program into a container that protects your genius. You have one core curriculum, you have clear deliverables, and you have premium pricing with very firm boundaries. And so your clients don't go down because they go into this beautiful space of being improved. I mean, it's the embodiment of boundaries in motion, which is something that is true to the feminine part of leadership. The offer isn't powered by your clients or people pleasing anymore. It's now the way that you're powered by a real process, and you can have that fluidity inside of you with comfort. The third lever is the visibility engine. And this is where most women resent marketing, because you're trying to be everywhere every day, and in reality, your energy isn't sustainable and very far from strategic. So we implement a visibility engine. So what that looks like is you are taking a couple of hours to map out this video content, and then you structure it so that you have multiple pieces that support that main content. There's actually a focus pattern inside of that. And so you then diversify so that you can actually start to scale, and you stop going into this pattern of belief that if I go viral, everything could change. Instead, you bring a presence that compounds, and bringing a presence that compounds allows your audience to have this root inside of you in a way where they can feel like they trust you differently. And so when you get leads in the inbox saying, I've been binging on your stuff for weeks, I'm ready, it's a very different type of energy, because your understanding with your clientele is something that is much more in depth and much more leadership driven. That's leverage, that's not labor, and there's a big difference. And I think in a way, a lot of us are kind of used to the labor. Don't worry, I'm not going to play the song, but I think that we as women, we will electrocute, we will rip off, we will laser, anything that doesn't really feel congruent with the ways that the outside world does it. It's really interesting. I was speaking to a friend of mine. We were talking about sushi shops and how a variety of sushi shops in their area have these really weird hours where they're actually at the store, but they're closed for 3 hours. And it's not because they have to prep or anything. It's because they want to reset, or they want to just eat and refuel. And mostly, though, when asked, they say, well, everybody else does it. And this is the part nobody tells you. Scaling doesn't just require better systems, it requires a better self-concept. Because just because everybody else does it a certain way doesn't mean that you have to do it a certain way. Your uniqueness can blossom in a variety of areas where you show up in a way where it's not you having to work harder to get more. Gamma says, I scale when I protect my time, my genius, and my nervous system. And this is the psychology of sustainable success, because when you actually do this, it's not just about revenue, it's about re-regulation into your true alignment. And when you do that, you have this expression that is uniquely yours. And while it might not look like everybody else's, or maybe it does look like a couple of a few, there is this differential where it is re-regulation in your alignment, and it brings you to your highest self in this really beautiful, connected way. So if you're sitting here thinking, I know this is me, I know I'm ready, but I don't know how to do it differently, you're not alone. One of the things that I often say is that you're not doing it wrong. You've just outgrown the stage where that brute force works. And this next level isn't necessarily about more. It's about making your brilliance sustainable, which I think is what you understand. And so when we're doing this inside of Reignite, there's a 90-day private container designed for women who are at 250K or more, who are really ready to attract premium clients without being on 24/7. Is it instantaneous? No. But in 90 days, you reclaim on average about 15 hours of work through a system that actually works for you. You build a brand that positions you as a founder, not as a bottleneck or not as somebody that's hustling around every corner. You don't need this bigger to-do list. You need a tighter strategy with clear boundaries and bolder energy, because that is the flux of feminine leadership. When you have these clear feminine boundaries, you have this bold, sassy energy that truly comes out as you. Maybe you're not as sassy. I'm pretty sassy, so my sassy comes out when those boundaries are really structured. But what you do next is, one, take a look at the private training. I actually linked it below. If it clicks, book a zero pressure clarity call. I'd love to chat with you, love to map together with you and bring you into that next level. This is where agency really starts to come in, and it's a proven growth system that'll help build around your capacity and your calling. Because scaling isn't necessarily for the loudest person in the room, it's for the clearest. Because when your mind is ultimately clear, you have this understanding that you no longer have to be as sacrificial as you once upon a time were. Anyway, if this speaks to you, I'm looking forward to chatting with you. Don't worry, I won't always be recording in an empty room. It's simply that I'm moving and upgrading myself. So I'll see you on the other side, and this will be Zhush here soon. Mwah.